how the refrigerator changed everything and broke the sky in the process. In 1918, a young engineer in Detroit sold his invention to a corporation for almost nothing. The corporation renamed it, marketed it, made hundreds of millions of dollars. The engineer disappeared from history. His name was Alfred Mellows. And there's a better than even chance you have his invention in your kitchen right now. But that's only half the story, because the corporation that built its empire on his idea eventually had a problem. Their machine ran on gases that could kill you, quietly, in your sleep. So they hired another inventor to fix it. He did. He invented something he called a miracle gas. Safe, stable, odorless, completely harmless. He was wrong, and what he got wrong cracked open the sky above us. By the end of this video, you don't know the full story. The inventor, nobody remembers. The corporation that erased him, the accidental mistake that's still unraveling in the atmosphere today. Let's start before any of this. Let's start with ice. Because before the refrigerator, cold was not a utility. Cold was a commodity, and somebody got very, very rich selling it. His name was Frederick Tudor, and in 1806 he did something that everybody around him thought was insane. He cut ice from a frozen pond in Massachusetts, loaded it onto a ship, and sailed it to the Caribbean. People laughed. Ice would melt, they said. You'd arrive with a ship full of water and a ruined business. He arrived with enough ice to fill a warehouse, and he sold every block. Tudor spent the next 30 years building an empire around that idea. By the 1840s, he was shipping ice from New England ponds to India, to South America, to Australia. Ice cut by hand in winter, packed in sawdust, loaded onto ships, and carried across oceans to people who had never seen a frozen lake. He became known as the Ice King, and he made a fortune. But closer to home, in ordinary American and Canadian household through the 1800s, ice shaped the entire rhythm of domestic life in a quieter way. The icebox, a wooden cabinet lined with tin or zinc, with a compartment on top for a block of ice and a compartment below for food. The ice melted slowly. You kept a drip pan underneath. Every 2 or 3 days, the Iceman came. The Iceman was a fixture of urban life the way the postman is today. He knew every household on his route. He knew who had how many children, who was sick, who was behind on their bill. He carried 50-pound blocks on his back with iron tongs, walked them upstairs, slid them into the top of the icebox, collected his payment, and moved on. And around this entire system, the ice ponds, the ice houses, the delivery routes, the ice companies. An entire economy had grown. Thousands of jobs, entire industries, all built on the simple idea that if you kept food cold, it lasted longer. Then somebody invented a machine that made the Iceman obsolete, and then somebody else took that machine and made $1 billion. Alfred Mellows was an engineer, not famous, not connected, just a man who noticed a problem and thought he could solve it. In 1914 and 1915, working in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Mellows built the first self-contained electric refrigerator designed for use in a home kitchen. Previous attempts at mechanical refrigeration existed: industrial units, brewery coolers, large commercial machines. But they were massive, expensive, and required trained operators. Nobody had made one small enough, quiet enough, and reliable enough to sit in a family's kitchen. Mellows did. He called his company the Guardian Refrigerator Company. Note the spelling, refrigerator, not refrigerator. And he moved operations to Detroit, the industrial heart of America, to try to scale up production. The machine worked, but the company struggled. Making refrigerators at scale required capital Meloise didn't have. Manufacturing was expensive. Distribution was expensive. Marketing was expensive. Picture him in 1917. The machine is real. It works. Hebbs tested it. He believes in it. But the letters from the bank keep coming. The orders don't. By 1918, he was running out of money. That same year, William Durant, the founder of General Motors, heard about the Guardian Refrigerator Company. Durant didn't invent anything. He built things other people invented. He had turned a collection of small car companies into the largest automobile manufacturer in the world. He understood scale. He understood what a good idea looked like when it hadn't yet been turned into money. He bought the Guardian Refrigerator Company. Meloise got a modest payment. Durant got the patent, the design, the manufacturing process, and the future. General Motors renamed it Frigidaire. By 1923, Frigidaire had sold over 100,000 units. By 1929, over 1 million. By the mid-1930s, the brand name Frigidaire had become so dominant that in many parts of the world, France, Britain, parts of South America, people stopped saying refrigerator altogether. They just said the Frigidaire. Alfred Mellows was not mentioned in any of the advertising. The refrigerator changed how people ate. This is easy to forget because we take it for granted now. Before mechanical refrigeration, the American diet, the diet of ordinary families, was structured around what didn't spoil: salt pork, dried beans, root vegetables, bread, food that could survive without cold. Fresh vegetables were seasonal. Fresh milk lasted 2 days in summer. Fresh meat had to be bought the day it was eaten, or not at all. The entire rhythm of grocery shopping, meal planning, and cooking was shaped by the fact that food was either alive, preserved, or gone. The refrigerator dismantled that structure completely. Fresh food could now be stored for days. Leftovers became a concept. The weekly grocery run replaced the daily trip to the market. But, and here is the same pattern we saw with the washing machine, standards rose alongside capability. Before the refrigerator, a housewife who served her family salt pork and boiled potatoes was meeting the standard. It was what was available. After the refrigerator, she had no excuse. The expectation of variety, freshness, elaborate meals. All of it expanded in proportion to what the machine made possible. The refrigerator gave women more options. It also gave society more reasons to expect more of them. The time it saved was not always returned to the person who saved it. Now, here is the part that the Frigidaire brochures definitely didn't mention. The early refrigerators, not just Frigidaire's, but all of them, ran on refrigerant gases, and those gases were dangerous. Sulfur dioxide, methyl formate, methyl chloride, ammonia. These were the substances circulating inside machines sitting in people's kitchens. And when they leaked, which they did because early refrigerators weren't perfectly sealed, the results could be fatal. There were cases, not many, but enough. Families who woke up sick, people who didn't wake up at all. The industry had a problem. A machine that could kill your customers was not a machine that was going to take over the world. General Motors knew this, and in 1928, they gave the problem to a research chemist named Thomas Migley Jr. Migley was brilliant, genuinely, uncomfortably brilliant. He was asked to find a refrigerant that was stable, non-toxic, non-flammable, and cheap to produce. He found one. Working with a team at GM Research, within 2 years, Migley had synthesized a class of compounds called chlorofluorocarbons, CFC-12 specifically. He called it Freon. In 1930, at a meeting of the American Chemical Society, Migley inhaled a lungful of Freon in front of the audience and exhaled it slowly to snuff out a candle flame. Non-toxic, non-flammable, stable, safe. The room was impressed. The industry adopted it almost immediately. Freon replaced the toxic refrigerants across the entire refrigerator market within a decade. The safety problem was solved, or so everyone believed. For decades, no one questioned Freon. It worked, it was safe, it was everywhere. Not just in refrigerators, but in air conditioners, aerosol spray cans, industrial cooling systems. By the 1970s, CFC production was measured in the hundreds of thousands of tons per year. Then in 1973, two chemists at UC Irvine, Frank Sherwood Rowland and Mario Molina, started asking a question that no one had thought to ask. What happens to CFC molecules after they're released into the atmosphere? The answer, when they worked it out, was alarming. CFC molecules are extremely stable. That's what made them seem safe. They don't react with anything in the lower atmosphere. They just float, slowly rising for years until they reach the stratosphere. In the stratosphere, ultraviolet radiation from the sun breaks them apart, and the chlorine atoms released in that breakdown destroy ozone molecules. One chlorine atom can destroy up to 100,000 ozone molecules before it's finally neutralized. The ozone layer is what blocks ultraviolet radiation from reaching Earth's surface. Without it, or with less of it, UV levels rise. Skin cancer rates rise. Ecosystems are damaged. The food chain is disrupted. Rowland and Molina published their findings in 1974. The chemical industry pushed back hard. Freon was worth billions of dollars. The company that manufactured most of the world's CFC supply spent years funding research that challenged the conclusion. Then, in 1985, British scientists in Antarctica confirmed what Rowland and Molina had predicted. There was a hole in the ozone layer over the South Pole. Not a thinning, a hole. The world moved unusually fast. In 1987, under the Montreal Protocol, nations across the globe agreed to phase out CFC production. It is considered one of the most successful international environmental agreements in history. Thomas Migley never saw any of this. He died in 1944. He didn't know about the ozone layer. He didn't know about CFC's atmospheric behavior. He invented Freon in good faith to solve a real problem, and by every measure available to him, he solved it. Historian John McNeill later wrote that Migley had more impact on the atmosphere than any other single organism in Earth's history. He meant it as a description of damage, but he also meant it as a measure of scale. One man, one invention, designed to protect people. And it did protect people from toxic refrigerants in their kitchens. What it did to the sky above them, he never knew. The ozone layer is recovering, slowly. Scientists estimate it will return to 1980 levels sometime around 2066, meaning the full recovery will take roughly a century from when the damage was first confirmed. One Montreal Protocol, one global agreement, and the sky is healing. That almost never happens. Alfred Mellows, the man who built the first home refrigerator in a workshop in Indiana in 1915, has no Wikipedia page. General Motors does. Frigidaire is still a brand name. It's owned by Electrolux now. Alfred Mellows is not mentioned in their company history, And the refrigerator sitting in your kitchen right now, the one you open 12 times a day without thinking about it, traces a direct line back to a young engineer who ran out of money, sold his idea for almost nothing, and let a corporation write the rest of the story. We keep food cold now without thinking about what that required. The ice trade that employed thousands. The iceman who climbed your stairs twice a week. The engineer who figured out how to do it with electricity. The chemist who made it safe and accidentally broke something in the sky that's still healing. Every piece of fresh food you eat is the end of a very long chain. Most of the people who made that chain possible, you've never heard their names. That's kind of the whole point of this channel. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Next week, indoor plumbing, and why the invention that was supposed to liberate women from water hauling instead created a new set of expectations that trapped them somewhere else entirely. Thank you for watching, genuinely, and I'll see you in the next one.